No one cares about the inauguration. The Lions lost. Ben Johnson's available. The Bears are going to go get him. Maybe. We're going to talk about it right now. CHGO Bears Podcast.
Looking live at the Bears coaching search. There he is, our guy.
Why do you change your voice like that?
Because it's the start of the show. I get excited, and I haven't seen you in a couple of days. Respect my excitement for you, for Greg, for the national championship game tonight. Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Ben Johnson is available. There's a lot going on here, Hoge. Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast on a Monday with the coaching search. I would assume in full steam here. We're not waiting around for Joe Brady.
No.
No.
We covered Joe Brady last week. Go check it out on the YouTube page.
Hey, Hoge, is there a national championship game tonight and there's some prospect piece around there that you might want to consider promoting as we start the show today that's very important by a guy that we love and Fran Duffy? Is that true?
Yes. In case you missed it, Fran Duffy, our ALLCITY NFL draft analyst. He's been dropping some great stuff. Mock draft. His first mock draft came out last week, and he has a preview for tonight's national championship game, not in terms of like who's going to win or lose, but who the Bears might want to draft, which prospects you should be watching in this game.
Yeah, well,
it's at allchgo.com. Go check it out. Fran does a great job.
I just want to tell you as we start the show here that you might, for everything that's going on, you might want to get on your right on, because I'm looking far and wide at Steven and everybody else who the Bears should not only be drafting.
Pretty soon you're going to have to use those to read your notes.
Apparently you couldn't see what was going on while you were using those. So now that you're on camera, why don't you show the people the binoculars?
Well, look, I am right on.
Right on, buddy.
Where are you, Ben Johnson? Oh, there you are.
Probably on a flight to Vegas right now.
Do you want to be a Bear? Because you need to be a Bear. Hey, when you're looking through this coaching search and you're trying to find where to go, just do it with Right On. The binoculars are amazing. Higher performance, lower price, perfect balance, performance and value. You're not going to break the bank. And by the way, they got the unlimited lifetime warranty. Covers the defects, also accidental damage, accidental drops. Hopefully the Bears will not drop this coaching search. Can I just take the temperature of you two fine gentlemen as to your confidence level that this is going to go the way Bears fans want it to go and that Ben Johnson's going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears?
Well, see, the way you started it, I didn't know you were going to end it, and I was just going to answer it halfway through. When you ask me how confident I am that the Bears are going to get this right,
yeah,
I feel really good because I think they're either going to get Ben Johnson or Mike McCarthy. And I know this isn't the popular take in Chicago because one has to be great and the other has to suck, and your opinion has to be right and my opinion has to be wrong. But I believe that both guys will be a great option to be the head coach of the Bears. There's a lot of potential with Ben Johnson and some unknown how he is as a head coach, but there's so many things to like about him. And there's so many things we already do know about Mike McCarthy that I would love to have as our head coach of the Chicago Bears. So between the two, one of the two are going to be the Bears head coach, and I feel good about that.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there with the idea that I do feel confident. Now, I would also like to see some of these other candidates, the 900 candidates they've interviewed, be actually like officially eliminated. It would help my confidence.
Shout out Eddie George. Good job interviewing yesterday.
Maybe they already were.
Maybe, but my point is,
were like thrown into an alligator pit after the.
Well, that seems aggressive. There is like a weird swamp outside Hal's Hall, though. People don't know it's there. The ball, when they had the kicking competition a few years ago, the balls kept going down in there, and I was like, there's definitely some crazy animals down there I'd be worried about. I want to feel confident that the list of finalists that I think we're going to end up getting here in the next few days is way more qualified and a way higher level and standard than it has been in past coaching searches. It still has me worried that the Mark Trestman, Matt Eberflus, that not qualified, that scores way lower in the head coaching model that we've been using, would still sneak in there as a finalist. But as I run these through and keep looking at them more and more, Mike McCarthy's highly qualified. Ben Johnson's highly qualified. I like the arguments for both. I have no problem with both. I'd probably still side towards Ben Johnson a little bit right here because of the upside, because of how, it seems like such a perfect match for Caleb right now. I think it's worth the swing, even if it ends up being a miss. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you can go wrong with Mike McCarthy. Should I get into this now? I have some little nuggets on Mike McCarthy I was reading over the weekend.
I would love for you to get into it now as I remind everybody that this fine CHGO Bears podcast, if you are watching it live, then you probably know that we are now back to having the show at noon. But if you have somehow forgotten that, put in your calendar. Shows move back to noon for the offseason here. Not saying that once the season comes around that we'll be here forever, but for now we are at noon. Mark it down, and we appreciate everybody on the chat being live.
So we were on a flight to Arizona a few months ago, and my good friend here to my left, Gregory, tried to humiliate me in a number of different ways on that flight, both vocally in the plane, which I thought was hilarious. It was actually a really good bit.
One of the worst guys to travel with in the history of America.
Yeah.
You can't find his way through an airport, and it's annoying once you get on the plane with him.
The one I didn't appreciate was he tried to out me and really try to get Bears Twitter to turn on me because I was reading a book about Aaron Rodgers on the plane.
You would never try to up his popularity on Twitter at someone on this show's expense. That would never happen.
Right. So he sneaks a photo of me reading this book on the plane and then tweets it out to, his cult. And tries to make me look like a bad guy, like this some type of pack. Yep. God forbid I might actually just be reading this book because you never know, as somebody who's been covering this league for a long time, what type of information you might learn from reading such book of such team and quarterback and coaches and front office people have dominated the Chicago Bears over the years. Mm-hmm. So anyway. It occurred to me as this Mike McCarthy thing, because I did finish that book a while ago, that maybe I should go back and read some of the chapters on specifically what Mike McCarthy did with Aaron Rodgers back in the
reading.
Yes,
I did some reading today, but go ahead, Adam.
You sure did.
So on my flight to Nashville, I brought the book with me. Again, I was sitting there reading this book on the plane, which was what made me remember that he tried to humiliate me. Fortunately, my wife is a lot nicer than me and didn't do such a thing on this flight. Anyway, the point is, let me give you a few things that I think people, revisionist history, just try to look back at Aaron Rodgers like he was some finished Hall of Fame, product from the very beginning.
Right.
Instead of understanding that there was and we had a great conversation with Rob Domofsky, I encourage people to go back and listen to from last week. But Mike McCarthy got 2 years where Brett Favre was still starting, and he had what he called the quarterback school. Rob talked about this. It's also in the book. And there's a few things that Rodgers was struggling with early on in his career that might sound familiar to you. Okay? One we talked about last week. I don't know if this is necessarily a Caleb problem, but Aaron, his ball placement was really weird. They taught it high at Cal. No, part of the reason why he fell in the draft because they didn't feel like he could fix it. Mike McCarthy, when he was at the 49ers, wasn't really sure that he could fix it. Right. But he comes in with Tom Clements as the quarterback coach. By the way, retired. Maybe if they hire Mike McCarthy, they can get him out of retirement and have him come to the Bears. That'd be a great hire. They fix that. Aaron Rodgers also had a problem holding the ball too long. And his first year even starting, he took way too many sacks. It was a huge problem. He was trying to do hero ball a little bit too much. Aaron Rodgers, I think people forget, was a pretty mobile, athletic quarterback at the start of his career, similar to Caleb Williams, and he's not necessarily a running quarterback, but he's one that can move around the pocket, has the athleticism to make some crazy plays, but he was relying on that a little bit too much. and he was taking sacks to the point he was pissing off his offensive line a little bit. His offensive line was maybe getting a little bit too much blame. I'm reading this, and it's like I could have been reading a book about Caleb Williams and what we've seen. The raw talent, a guy that, there was no question about that just needed to be coached up in the right ways. And here I'm reading this book, and it's Mike McCarthy being that person that really gets a lot of credit, along with Tom Clements, of fixing some of these issues and allowing Aaron Rodgers with all that talent to blossom. It just really stood out to me.
So in the horse race, Hoge, do you still have for you, not who will be the ultimate choice here, but for you, if it was Adam Hoge, are you putting McCarthy in front of Ben?
No, I think I still, like I said earlier, I think the home.
You still think
the home run swing is worth taking on Ben Johnson right now. With what the upside could be,
right?
But even last week when we did the coaching buckets that were / baskets,
huge segment, loved it.
We could probably bring some of that back here. Actually, I even as I was working with our great producer Steven trying to put that segment together, and he did all the fine graphics on it. I was even saying to him, I'm like, right now I have Mike McCarthy on the how did I word it? The backups, the respectable backup options. But I was really tempted even in that moment to move him to my top candidates bucket. So that's where I think I've moved a little bit. I do think he's right up there at the top. That's somebody that should be considered a top candidate. If I had to pick right now, I think I would still go with Ben Johnson because I just think there's too much evidence right here that the upside should be there. But it's a little bit risky because we know Mike McCarthy can be a head coach. We do not know that about Ben Johnson until he does it.
And that's where I wanted to go with it is like what we know about these guys. Because yes, Ben Johnson is everyone's top pick. He's the top pick of this poll. He's the next Kyle Shanahan. He's the next Sean McVay. We know Ben Johnson can call a good offense. We know that they've had a ton of success the last 3 years. But we do not know how he is as a head coach, period. We will not know that answer until September. If you want to take that risk, I'm with you, and I'll be optimistic about the future. But we do not know the answer of Ben Johnson as a head coach until he's a head coach wherever he goes, whether that be in Chicago or not. We also do not know if Ben Johnson can develop a young quarterback. Someone show me the evidence where Ben Johnson has developed a young quarterback, which still has work to be done here in Chicago with Caleb Williams.
So, Greg, let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question? I respect the one shot.
Yeah.
Back to 3 shot. This is your life. You are a CHGO Bears podcaster. You do this every single day of the week. There's nothing more you want in life other than your daughter's success and your lovely marriage and all the things and your above-ground pool to flow beautifully this summer and invite Carman over. There's nothing more you want than the Bears to win a Super Bowl and be sitting in that seat right there.
It used to be my daughter's success, but she's been doing so bad at school.
Boy, you just crushing her.
Punting on Addie. Rough parenting
Another
move,
yellow day on Friday. We better have she's off today.
But might be a decent strategy. Kids are unpredictable these days. Would you rather, as you talk yourself through this, have you talked yourself into McCarthy?
I think I have because.
You think? It sounds like you have.
And this is where it's like pitting against each other. If they hire Ben Johnson, I'll be optimistic about the future, but I'll also be guarded to say, we still don't know who he is until we get there. But with Mike McCarthy, I do know who he is as a head coach. And he's a good head coach. Anyone that wants to argue otherwise is lying to themselves. Mike McCarthy is a good head coach, not without flaws. I'm not saying he's a perfect head coach, but he has proven to be a good head coach. We also know that Mike McCarthy has developed quarterbacks and has been around a lot of great quarterbacks. These are some of the quarterbacks that Mike McCarthy has been around in his coaching tenure through decades of coaching. Joe Montana, Rich Gannon, Steve Bono, Matt Hasselbeck, Brett Favre, Aaron Brooks, Aaron Rodgers, and Dak Prescott. And some of those quarterbacks under the tutelage of Mike McCarthy and his quarterback school, which I encourage everyone to dig a little deeper on, on what he's done to help develop quarterbacks is a very good background. This is a guy in Mike McCarthy that is 65 games over 500 as a head coach. The third most playoff wins in the NFL. At 3 straight 12-win seasons with Dak Prescott. So if you think he can't come here and get some success out of Caleb Williams and what the Bears roster is, then you don't believe in Caleb Williams and the Bears roster. It's not about not believing in Mike McCarthy. Period.
I got to be honest. I think something I had tingles on me watching you read notes off your phone. That was God, way to go, Braggy. Braggy. Let's go, Braggy. We got a ton more here. Braggs Go Notes. We're just look at the way the show is coming on to new levels here. I want to talk about the Lance Newmark impact here of things we didn't get to in the opening segment. But first,
whether it's pro or college, the app to bet football is Circa Sports Illinois. By the way, fun weekend with the football. 3 of the 4 games coming down to crazy situations with the spread at the end. Circa Sports is sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. You can bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures are in-game. Circa Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 and older. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And start the new year with a deal that's going to warm your wallet. That's right. We're shouting out our friends at Hooters. Grab Hooters chicken tenders and fries, or their chicken tender tacos and fries for, that's right, $9.99 each. Can you believe that? It's a new year. It's a new flavor. You're feeling bold. You're taking notes like Braggs is. Try Hooters' new mango habanero wing sauce. Toss your wings, tenders in the sweet, spicy kickstart to the 2025 year. And by the way, we know this. Hooters, it's football headquarters. Let's go conference championship week. Let's end dry January early, perhaps. I'll think about that one. Shout out to those who have done it 20 days in. But, hey, playoffs, bro, tonight, ND, Ohio State. Watch it at Hooters. Hot wings, cold beers, favorite cheerleaders. The Hooters girls will be there. Game day specials, all of it. Cheer on your favorite teams from any of the Chicagoland Hooters locations all over the place. There's one by you. I'll name them real quickly. Aurora, Countryside, Downers Grove, Joliet, Lansing, Melrose Park, Oakland, O'Hara, Schaumburg, and, of course, Wells Street in the city. You can even order online for pickup delivery. Check them out, originalhooters.com, originalhooters.com.
And I'm seeing a lot of people in chat saying, no other team is interviewing Mike McCarthy.
That's not true.
A, it's not true. And B, if you're only going to base your evaluation off of teams like what the Jets and the Jaguars and the Raiders are doing, that's a flawed evaluation process. You're saying only interview the coaches that the Jets interview because the Jets have had so much success here lately. Base it on your own research and what you do know about the people that you're talking about. And again, we can move over to Ben Johnson because I think, unexpectedly, I think the A block turned into a lot of a Mike McCarthy thing. Again, if they hire Ben Johnson, which is we've all wanted him for months now, I'm going to be excited for the future with Ben Johnson. But that doesn't change the fact that, okay, I'm nervous about the Bears not getting Ben Johnson, and I'll be excited if they do get him. But then once we do get him, if we do, then there's the next step of now I have to be nervous that it's going to work out. Will he be a head coach? Can he develop Caleb Williams and help with some of the things that he needs help with? Right. And we don't know those answers. And for everybody to act like once we hire him, it's a foregone conclusion that all of this is going to work out is lying to themselves. You can be optimistic, but we don't have actual proof that he can do the job.
I mean, is anybody saying that?
It feels like Bears fans are just acting like this is a no-brainer. Get Ben Johnson in here, and we're going to walk into the sunset and have 5 Super Bowls. I'm all with you. Let's be excited, but I just feel like we're getting ahead of our skis on a guy that we don't know that much about.
Well, and look, the reality is, too, is like during different bits and pieces of this, we've heard different reporting from Albert Breer, Adam Schefter, Tom Pelissero, whoever, all respected reporters that have, now we got to go back like a month at least, where it's like, the type of coach the Bears will target will be X. One of those things was previous head coaching experience, leader of men, offensive coach, and then some of it's been very specific, like they're
answers for Caleb Williams.
Yeah. There's actually, unless I'm missing somebody else, there's only one candidate that checks all of those boxes.
Correct.
And that is Mike McCarthy.
Pete Carroll's in that box.
Pete Carroll's a defensive coach.
Right.
Okay, fine.
No, but that's what I mean.
Fair
Like,
enough,
even
He's had good history with quarterbacks
Yeah.
from USC and Seattle, but he's a defensive guy.
and that's not to say they're definitely hiring Mike McCarthy. All I'm trying to say is of all the candidates, the 700 people they've interviewed, there's actually only one that checks every single one of the boxes.
Right.
And that is Mike McCarthy. So that's why I think, like, from the start of this, from the time we heard, they're requesting to interview him, but they can't because the Cowboys aren't letting him, it was kind of like, ooh, gonna have to take this one seriously. And then the more you dig into it, the more it makes sense. But again, that's not a case for, not hiring Ben Johnson. But let's talk about Ben Johnson here because, yes, that was, I think all of us probably Saturday night were like, oh, well, that changes a lot of things for this week because
Pretty shocking game.
this thing is going to, by the way, shout out to one of the 800 places my wife and I went to over the weekend. Apologies to if you were a bottle of bourbon in Nashville over the weekend, you no longer exist.
Way to go, Krista and Hoge.
Well, the bourbon was me. The Captain Morgan was her. But they're both all gone. Second half, you guys would be proud of my wife for this one. So we watched the first half, more like a sports bar with TVs, games on. The game's going the way it's going. Four of the fakest Lions fans I've ever seen in my life sitting next to us. They barely cared.
Fake Lions fans.
That's not a shot at all Lions fans. It's a shot those 4 Lions fans.
Fake Lions fans.
One of which was from Highland Park. Get out of here.
And go at my alma mater.
Yeah.
Shout out to 60035. Down goes HP.
So it's like halftime, and I was kind of the one that wanted to go. Actually, can we go? Come on, we're in Nashville. Can we go see some more music?
Yeah.
The game's recording. I'll watch it later.
Thank you.
I'll follow it on my phone. And it was actually my wife was like, I kind of want to be able to watch the game. But by the time we left there to get to the next place, the Commanders had scored again. And I looked at my phone, I'm like, honey, I don't think we have to worry about this, the way this thing's going. And out of nowhere, I don't even remember the place we were in at that time. Maybe it was Chiefs.
The Tin Roof.
It was not the Tin Roof. That's one of the few places we didn't go to.
Ryman Theater. So you saw Mark Knopfler back in 2006. It was amazing.
2 Bears fans, CHGO diehards, tapped me on the shoulder.
That's so good. That's so good. We love you so much.
Well, you'd be mad at me because I don't remember their names, and I'm a bad guy for that. So I apologize, but I guarantee you they're watching.
I saw a guy at Costco that said hi.
You saw a guy at Costco?
Didn't write that down
big
either?
CHGO Bears fan.
You're both fine, actually, now. You write these things down. You shout them out.
Okay, the point of this is 2 random Bears fans stopped me, 4th quarter of the Lions game. They were actually upstairs where apparently the game was on, and they were just like, can you believe this? This changes everything. So I think Bears fans everywhere were having that, us included, oh my God, this is actually happening this week.
And anybody that thinks that, I disagree with anybody that says that Ben Johnson didn't, choked or didn't have a good game. They had 500 total yards of offense. He wasn't perfect. I think they could have ran more with Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a freaking menace. Love to have that guy on this team. But
can I bring up one moment in that game, though, where I think he was amazing? And it was actually the moment where I tweeted Ben Johnson.
Was it the reverse?
Dude, your starting quarterback's out, might have a concussion. You have Teddy Bridgewater, who's been on the team for 5 seconds, and you have the perfect play call on?
Yeah.
Especially because the first snap, Bridgewater didn't look like he knew what he was doing.
Right.
So it's not even only the fact that you have that call ready, but actually you have him coached up to run that perfectly.
Right.
And it was the perfect play call. That was what a great moment that was for Ben Johnson to know in that situation what exactly to call.
Well, and the execution and design of that play, sorry, Carm, was impressive to me because a lot of times when you see on a reverse, it'll be a pitch right. Here comes the receiver, and a lot of times defenses can sniff it out by the design of it. But they ran it like it was a run play up the middle, not to the outside. He got vertical with the handoff as opposed to leading towards the receiver to hand it off. And that's what I think set it up so beautifully.
My negative Nancy response to that play was, is there anyone in the Bears that can run like Jamison Williams? Because he was just like,
your boy Tyler Scott, come on down.
Yeah, right. And
it's tongue in cheek.
I understand. And I did have the Tyler Scott thought. He doesn't run like that. That dude was taking one stride, was going like 17 yards. He's just cruising around.
Jameson is a menace. But then if you want to be fair to the discussion here with Ben Johnson, down 10 in the fourth quarter with your season on the line, calling the Keenan Allen throw it to the other team play. That was a bad. He should have thrown it out of bounds, but you can't call that play there.
I disagree, man. That's who the Lions are, dude. That's their identity. That's who Ben Johnson is. If you hate that play call, you should definitely be sitting here right now saying, I want Mike McCarthy over Ben Johnson. Because that has been him all season. That has been his identity. That's what the Lions' identity is. He has those play calls. And just because it didn't work, they're not all going to work. And because if that play had worked, we are sitting here just praising him to the moon that he had the perfect trick play to come up with to save the Lions season. They come back, they look dead in the water, they win that game. I don't think it's fair to criticize Ben Johnson for that play call when if you've watched any Lions game for the last 3 years, but especially this past season, there's plays like that every single game that work.
All right, but let's just play it for just 1 second here, and just let's take a guess at what's going to happen later in the week, because Adam Schefter is out there this morning saying that both Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson are going to have jobs this week. So Wednesday, Thursday, these guys, Friday, I wouldn't think it's as early as tomorrow that they're going to get announced. And you saw over the weekend that the Raiders are interviewing Lance Newmark, who was the assistant GM in Detroit and apparently is very close with Ben Johnson. The Raiders tend to overspend. The Raiders have Tom Brady. The Raiders don't have a quarterback. What does Ben Johnson think of Caleb Williams? What does he think of Ryan Poles? What does he think of Kevin Warren? Like, do you think he's going to pick the Bears? Because I do not. I think he's going to the Raiders. And that's based on nothing. Absolutely nothing other than just reading the tea leaves, that they're aligning their GM with their head coach. They've got Tom Brady, and it just seems like they're doing some things right that the Bears are not doing.
Maybe.
But maybe he loves Caleb to the end of the earth. That's what it would take.
Well, that's the big one.
Yeah.
And no one knows the answer to that question except for Ben Johnson.
Right. So what's your guess?
Well, first of all, before I start making random guesses, there's a couple of reactions to some things over the weekend. I mean, one is that could be anywhere from very significant, that's who Ben Johnson basically told the Raiders to interview to be their GM.
Or it could be a Hail Mary.
Or it could be,
sure,
we're not sure if we can get Ben Johnson. Let's get some intel on him. This guy, I know they're close.
Sure.
And then when it comes to the quarterbacks, how Ben Johnson feels between Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, and the idea of running it back with another veteran like Jared Goff. I just said this on All NFL earlier. I think we all underestimate sometimes. We get so enamored with the shiny young prospect that some of these coaches want nothing to do with young quarterbacks.
Right.
They can't trust them. They want a Jared Goff who they know is going to run exactly what they're asking them to run, understand the system, make the reads they're supposed to make, and that's it. And I don't know right now if where Ben Johnson falls on that. He may love Caleb Williams. He may want to go to the Raiders where he can go sign, heck, maybe it's Sam Darnold.
Right.
And just run what he wants to run. I don't know the answer to that question, so I would be guessing. There was one important, significant thing that came out over the weekend that I think everybody rolled their eyes at that actually I thought mattered a lot. The Bears inquiring about Mike Tomlin.
Oh, we haven't even mentioned that. That's unbelievable. That's a bad job by probably me. Go ahead.
The Bears at least picking up the phone and being like, can we talk about trading for Mike Tomlin? Maybe that's a Hail Mary. Maybe it was completely unrealistic. Maybe, everybody can kind of laugh at it. Whatever. You do not do that without knowing how much money Mike Tomlin makes.
$16 million a year.
And understanding that if you're going to start going down the road, if you're serious about that, if you're seriously calling the Steelers about that you got to be ready to pay a lot of money for a head coach, which I'm not bringing that up to support the idea that the Bears have been cheap in the past. I mean, I think there's certain times where they've been willing to pay more than others, but that's a different stratosphere of money that the Bears have not been willing to pay, that you might need to have to pay for Ben Johnson. We don't know that yet.
I think you are going to have to pay it.
But that nugget, that report coming out, my only takeaway from that was that's actually really significant because it means the Bears are willing right now to pay a lot of money for a head coach, which they should be.
So my skepticism on that moment was like, did they just want that news out there just so everybody would know they're turning out? Or were they actually doing what you're saying that, okay, hey, man, we doubt it, but if we did, we'd pay the going rate for Mike Tomlin to have one.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I did get some texts from some people I trust that were like, what are the Bears doing? Why are you putting that out there? Another we tried moment?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the case. But
how does that get out?
But I was less focused on why that was getting out and more focused on what it actually meant.
Right. So my other question, and I know you got to take a break here, but my other question to that then is, if they tried to trade him for Mike Tomlin, you're not negotiating whether or not Mike Tomlin wants to be your coach. You're trying to trade for him. So let's say the Steelers had said, yes, we will negotiate a trade. So then he's option A over McCarthy and Ben Johnson, because that's not an interview process. You're trying to trade for him.
Well, it starts with a phone call to see if it's even an option. Okay. And then I think if they're interested.
My brain jumped to, did they get an inclination that Ben Johnson doesn't want to come here, and that led them to look at other avenues?
I'm going to get an answer to my question from both of you after this quick timeout on whether you think on who he's going to pick. You are going to have to. You get 2 minutes to think about which way you want to go on this one. But first, shout out to our friends at Game Time Picks. And Game Time does have that new feature called Game Time Picks, which makes it easier to get tickets to events. It makes it as simple as possible. They also have these super deals, which is the best value for that event. So they're looking at all the prices. They boil it down. This is the best seat for the best value. Buy this. That's your move. Makes it easy for you. Seat views before you buy, on-time ticket delivery, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, everything you want. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CHG
and the microphone.
I literally was. I felt like I was.
Producer is about ready to strangle you.
I thought I was making out with the mic. Maybe I wasn't. Okay, I'll work on that. Me and you, microphone. We're together for life. Use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Use that redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. What time is it?
Game time.
Boom. Yeah.
Hey, for the best way to start 2025, head to Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and shop the Start Something New sales event. That's what the Bears are doing. They're starting something new. You want to score some more of the New Year's best savings on new vehicles? Hurry in today. I'll actually be over there on Thursday this week, unless the Bears hire a new head coach. Then I probably won't be. But that's the plan right now. I will be hurrying in on Thursday to browse their huge inventory of new vehicles. Right now, get 0% financing on all new 2024 Jeep models. That's right, 0%. That's huge. Or you could shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000 as well. Let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you during each step of your car shopping journey. I can vouch for this. Ray's Price Promise. The numbers you're hearing right now, same prices you can expect to shop in-store and online. Ray's Price Promise means they never change the price. No add-ons, no hidden fees. What you see is what you get. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram because they're the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake, raycdjar.com. Again, 0% available on all new 2024 Jeep models and 125 vehicles priced under $20K. Ray CDJR, serving the community since 1963.
All right. Best guess. Do you think he picks the Bears?
So during the season when I said that I thought Matt Eberflus would be fired, there was a lot of pushback by a lot of fans and some present company included. I was basing that decision and take off of logic. And so I'm going to use that same logic to say that Ben Johnson is going to choose the Chicago Bears. Because logically, when you put the different scales out there and weigh your options, the pros and cons for each team, the Bears scale tips the most for any coaching decision for any of these candidates out here. You have a quarterback ready to go, already a year under his belt, had the most total yards in franchise history, and that was with a lot of turmoil on this team. 2 head coaches, 3 offensive coordinators. You have a roster that's ready to go. You have a lot of spending money in free agency. You have a top 10 pick, 2 second-round picks.
So you
have an opportunity to compete right away and have a successful coaching career. So I believe Ben Johnson will pick the Chicago Bears.
Yes, Hoge.
I mean, I think that the question is, are the Bears going to pick him?
Wow. Really?
Yes, because you have control of this at the end of the day. I
mean, you
It's called money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, one of the dumbest things we do all the time is on this show, on every show I've ever been on, or fans or whoever, is we're like, they pick teams for reasons other than money. I'm not saying that there aren't other reasons, and there are reasons here that do matter. But at the end of the day, if you really want to go get a guy, whether it's a player or a quarterback, a coach or front office guy or whoever, it's about how much you're willing to pay that person.
I am including in him picking the Bears with your likely assessment of what the Bears are willing to pay him.
Yes. I think the Bears are in. That's the point I'm trying to make here. I think the Bears understand the magnitude of this situation. I think you have a team president that has come in here and said all the words, lots of words, with zero action to show for anything. And he knows that. Kevin Warren's not a dummy. He knows that at the end of the day, and he did this at the Big Ten. You know, whether you like it or not, the TV deals he put together there was something nobody else was doing. Pie in the sky. Why not? He said that. Why can't we do this? Well, why can't we land Ben? Why can't we land the big fish? And I think that at the end of the day, if that's who they decide they need to go all in on, they will. I think Ryan Poles obviously understands the magnitude of the situation. He's also got his own job security here. Whatever he needs to do to welcome Ben Johnson, to make that relationship work. And as I have been reporting from the very start, I never view Ryan Poles as a roadblock with Ben Johnson. I think they have an open mind of working together, and I don't think that at the end of the day that's going to be a problem. So when I add all that up, I should bring in Caleb Williams. Like, they know they can't mess this up, and they know how bad last year looked. It was horrible. It was about as worst case scenarios you could have put together, and they know how much they effed up the offensive coordinator hire last year. And that was a lot on Poles. It was a lot on Eberflus, but Kevin Warren was also in the building. They all allowed it to happen at the end of the day. So I think they're going to be desperate to not screw this up. I think Mike McCarthy is an outstanding backup option. If they do everything I'm saying, and he still does choose a different organization, they do have Mike McCarthy sitting there. But I think the Bears, I think this is going to move quick in the next couple of days. And if you're making me make that pick right now, I would say that it's Ben Johnson to the Bears.
I just think it would be crazy for him. Okay, the Raiders line up the GM he wants, Newmark, right? From the Commanders.
Yeah,
they pay him more money than the Bears. Okay, you still got to play Patrick Mahomes for the rest of your coaching tenure, who, by the way, has been to 7 straight AFC championships now. 7! So I don't know if I want my first ever opportunity to be a head coach to go somewhere where I am destined to face the greatest quarterback in NFL history every year in my division, in my conference. It makes no sense to me. So I just think if he chooses the Raiders situation over the Bears, it would just be reminiscent to me of once upon a time when Tracy McGrady picked the Orlando Magic over the Chicago Bears. Okay, you can go to Orlando, have fun. You're never going to do anything there, Tracy McGrady, and you didn't. You could have gone to Chicago, and who knows if it had worked out. But, you know, to me, Chicago, Orlando, the Raiders, the Bears, and maybe I have a skewed view because I'm a biased meatball Bears fan, but it would just make absolutely no sense to me to be a head coach and want to take on Patrick Mahomes twice a year and then one more time in the playoffs every year if I got there without a quarterback.
And that's the part I've been kind of laughing at because, look, there are people say, well, the NFC North's not much easier. You know, say 3 teams make the playoffs.
It's not Patrick Mahomes,
but it's the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like Jordan Love's good. I don't know if he's great. Sam Darnold, I think we just saw what Sam Darnold is when it comes to crunch time. And then Jared Goff, but by hiring Ben Johnson, you're theoretically weakening the Lions.
Yep.
Correct.
And we just had a discussion on All NFL earlier. If you missed that, I encourage you to go check out that podcast. And this is maybe a conversation we have, on a different day because this is a Bears show, but did the Lions just miss their window? Because they're talking about having both of their coordinators hired this week. And that's one of the things that's always attracted me about the Bears landing Ben Johnson is because you are also weakening the 2-time division champ at the same time.
Well, and that's why I said last year to Lions fans and to you, I see you in the chat, Don Burr.
Well, hey, credit to Don for actually showing his face.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's good showing up. But
where's Chim? Where's Chim Richels?
Yeah,
Chim ain't here. Don Burr, you're here. Credit to you.
But Don's here.
You're a loser.
Don's here, but Don's still trying to dunk on the Bears because Jaden Daniels looks like the greatest quarterback this side of Patrick Mahomes. It's not your day to dunk on anybody, Don. You guys, the Lions, to me.
Not your day to dunk, Don.
It's not your dunking day, Don. I'll tell you why, by the way. In 2003, if I may, as we spray to Tracy McGrady in Orlando, in 2003, there was this shortstop. His name was Alex Gonzalez, and there was some fan on the left field line, and the Cubs were up 3-1 in that series, and they lost it. And I was like, you know what's terrible about this? Is because you have no idea when you're going to get back. And what happened? In 2003, they lose. The Marlins get them. 2004, the Red Sox break their curse. 2005, the White Sox. And it was.
Well, look at the
don't
Bengals.
say it like that.
Well, look at the Bengals.
From a Cub fan standpoint, it couldn't have been any worse.
Well, look at the Bengals when they played the Rams in the Super Bowl. I mean, they were right there to win the Super Bowl. They didn't make the playoffs this year, and their quarterback had an MVP level season.
Right.
So tomorrow isn't promised to anyone in the NFL.
Last year, you had the Niners beat. You lost the game. Dan Campbell, that's fine.
And Dan said right after the game, I don't know if we'll ever get back to this spot.
Right.
Well,
and so
he was right, at least for 1 year.
Right. So this year you go and you win 15 games, but you took a step back in the playoffs. I don't know where. To me, you are trending in the wrong direction, Detroit. So to the whole point of how Ben sees this. Okay, I'm leaving here. I'm going over there. I'm going to bet on myself to help the Bears. This is going to hurt Detroit. Am I afraid of the Vikings? Am I afraid of Green Bay? No, but to me, that's why it all comes down to me is what does he think of Caleb? If he goes to the Raiders, he is telling you, it's just his opinion. That doesn't mean that Caleb's not going to be great. But to me, if he likes Caleb, he's coming. And if he doesn't, unless the Bears completely mess up the money. If he doesn't like Caleb, he thinks he's just a guy, then he's going to go to the Raiders.
But I can also flip that on its head and say if he picks the Raiders and goes with a veteran quarterback option, that he has more confidence that he can run an offense with a veteran quarterback as opposed to belief in himself to develop a quarterback.
You can flip it any way you want to flip it. If the dude thinks that Caleb is elite, he's coming here. It wouldn't make any sense unless the Bears completely messed him on the money, which I don't think they will, to Hoge's point.
Right. Well, although I'm not going to say that there shouldn't be a limit. I mean, if the Raiders come through pie in the sky, $20 million a year
for 8 years. They could do something like that.
Yeah.
They absolutely could do that.
Then I'm not sure the Bears should do that.
I'm not sure they should either.
Yeah.
I would agree. Really?
If they had no other great option, but that's when I start to consider Mike McCarthy being like, well, I don't know if the gap's that big that you should just be throwing around that kind of money. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's their money. It doesn't hurt you against the salary cap. It's not like spending $50 million on a quarterback where you're like, this is going to screw our defensive line because we're spending all this money.
Right.
It shouldn't.
If you really believe, and by the way, if I was George McCaskey, I'd be like, yeah, I understand that you believe this, but I look at everything else you do, so I don't really know if I should trust you, even though I'm keeping you employed. But if you truly believe that this is, let's go down the same generational coach, then you should pay what it takes to get him, man.
There's also this aspect of it, and I'm not saying it should totally matter when you're the actual decision makers, but while Mike McCarthy might be the coach that actually checks all of the boxes that have been named as things they're looking for, I think Ben Johnson's the one coach where if it doesn't work out, they really can't face much criticism for it. Like, if you hire Mike McCarthy over Ben Johnson, and we found out later Ben wanted the job, like Bruce Arians wanted the job, and then it doesn't work out, everybody, I mean, that might actually be the thing that would force the
pulse out the door situation.
Well, I would say the board, whatever they do, to actually change the chairman. Like, if that goes, you know what I mean? But if they go Ben Johnson over McCarthy and it doesn't work out, like, it's totally defensible.
Correct.
Would you do 6 and 15?
Carm, I would.
I'm just throwing out. If you're thinking logically,
wait, $15 million a year for yes.
Yeah, sure, right.
I mean, I'd probably even do 20, despite what I just said.
6 and 20.
My money.
This is and not only that. Other than quarterback, what is the most important person in your organization? To me, it's coach.
Tony Medlin.
Coaching matters so much that I do not understand these organizations that are like, we're just going to pay our head coach a couple million a year. What? It's so important.
Right. It's been undervalued financially for a long time, and now it's getting valued in a
It should.
Yeah.
And it doesn't count against the cap.
Right, and I think that the Bears, to your point, we have to get this right. We have lots of money. I mean, clearly they do. We're just going to sit here and wait 2 years to try to get Chicago to change its mind, get some weird stadium deal that no one thinks is possible, but Kevin's going down that road. So if he said how much that's costing me every year, and McCarthy's like, that's cool. Keep trying over there. Don't worry about it. We have this property, by the way, in Arlington Heights. I'm not sure if you're aware. Maybe they're just willing to spend on the coach too.
Yeah.
Well, and if you're following the tea leaves here this morning, Adam Schefter said Ben Johnson will be named as a team's head coach, no, quote unquote, no later than the middle of this week.
We did mention that.
Well, I'm just giving everyone the update for newer viewers to the program. Yeah. Okay. And then Jonathan Jones just put out a report, as the reports are flying in, and he's talking about, the Bears and Ben Johnson, obviously, having a lot of momentum, but the Raiders are heavily named as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, he said the Raiders are going to make a big push in the coming days to land Ben Johnson. Jonathan Jones said
but that was from yesterday. Right.
This morning too. He's come out
19 hours ago.
But it is interesting, like, just to watch when you talked about, as soon as the Lions game was over, the Bears announced that they were going to interview Eddie George. Which threw some Bears fans off. But if you're following what the Rooney Rule requires, that was an immediate tell that they are now expediting their process to be ready to hire a head coach right away.
Okay, you really think they expedited him? Like, you put him on a red eye from Tennessee? Like, that was already planned.
The timing of that.
I know, but Greg, think about this logically. He was. It was an in-person interview on Sunday morning. That game ended at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yep. Private jet.
They just called Eddie up.
Eddie, the Lions lost. Can we get you a private jet right now at 2 in the morning?
Eddie did some work with the Bears like last year, right?
Yeah, he was like on the
leadership committee or some shit.
No, it's the internship. I should know off the top of my head that I'm forgetting. That promotes minority
they've got him on speed dial. It's a favor.
Listen to me. First of all,
the timing of it for me, there's no coincidences in this world. And so then the Commanders follow with the GM interview the next morning, or not the Commanders, the Raiders, I should say.
None of that was planned before the Lions lost.
Why didn't the Raiders interview that GM a week ago?
The Commanders were playing in the game.
He's not the assistant GM, isn't doing anything.
He was in Detroit.
Whatever.
Listen,
I told you I'm not going to listen to logic, so I have my conspiracy, and you're going to hear it.
Matthew Brown in the chat, they called Eddie at halftime probably to speak to your point, Braggs. That's probably all went down. Hey, just one thing about Eddie George. Eddie George is awesome. I'm not saying that he's a real candidate. I'm not saying he should be a candidate. to be the head coach. But if they did put him on the staff, running backs coach, something along those, Chad Morton out the door, I would be very excited to have Eddie a part of the Bears organization. That dude is first class. And by the way, he's one of only 2 running backs in the history of the NFL to gain 10,000 yards and not miss a game. Should be in the Hall of Fame just for that stat alone. You know what the other one is? Gain 10,000 without missing a game. Name would be Jim Brown, who was a outstanding running back.
And Eddie George is also a former Ohio State Buckeye.
Who you're predicting is going to kill
Which
Notre
is
Dame?
why I cross off the list. No Buckeyes.
Ohio State's winning tonight.
Okay, let's pivot just real fast here because we haven't talked a ton about the weekend games. What stood out to you the most from any of your viewing this weekend?
But the Lions lost.
My biggest takeaway
That's fine.
from
For more specific,
I know.
I'm always going to look at things through a Bears lens, obviously. So for me, my biggest takeaway watching this weekend was watching Jalen Carter dominate the end of that game and understanding just how bad the Bears need a game wrecker like that in the middle of their defensive line or on their defensive line in general. And so if I'm the Bears, I am heavily considering using one of my second-round picks to move up to make sure I get Mason Graham or Abdul Carter. That was my biggest takeaway.
Well,
we need blue chip players on this team. You're right there at the top 10 and have an opportunity. Maybe one of those fall to you, but I want to make sure I come away with a game wrecker. Stafford had him on the ropes, and Jalen Carter said, nope, not today, and ended that game.
Well, and my coming off that, I had a similar take, but I don't want to make this a Jalen Carter versus, whatever thing, even though it probably should be. It's just that, like, good organizations are willing to take chances on good players. Not just good players, great players. It's not just Jalen Carter, who looks unbelievable. It's also Saquon Barkley. Probably the most important acquisition any team made the entire offseason. And we had this debate, ourselves too. So it's stuff we can learn from, I think. Even whether it's us talking about Jalen Carter a couple years ago or us talking about Saquon Barkley. Like, it's the same lessons for Ryan Poles and the Bears. And all these other organizations too. Because you're sitting there, you're the Giants, you're debating over like $3 million to keep the best player in your organization or let him go to your division rival.
Right.
Probably worth paying the money. You know what I mean? Like, it's same thing when it came down to Jalen Carter. It's like,
well, it's an important underline, too, by the way, from the poll standpoint, because he has his number. And if you are able to evaluate correctly, sometimes you can't get him at your number. Sometimes you got to go up.
Right. It's just the Chiefs will take chances on players. Oh, no. Especially like the guys that there's like cast-offs. Nobody wants them anymore. Okay. We'll take them. And it's... And then that player always seems to have a big moment in the Super Bowl or something,
Who's the greatest wide receiver of all time, not named Jerry Rice?
Randy Moss?
Yeah. Nobody wanted him. Patriots were willing to take a chance on him.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, nobody wanted him in the draft, too, right? He fell in the draft.
Well, and that's another point. It's like...
It wasn't just when the Patriots.
Undeniable talent is undeniable talent.
Who did the Bears draft the year Randy Moss came out?
If
Zed Benson, I think.
Curtis Enos?
One of those.
Curtis Enos.
Zach Berman said this on All NFL earlier. Made a great point because we were having the same conversation about Jalen Carter. But he's like, if you're sitting there trying to talk yourself out of a player, then you should probably just take that player.
Right.
Especially when he falls to 10.
It's more like when you're trying to talk yourself into the Mitch Trubisky's of the world. That's when you have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, especially when he falls to 10. I mean, he was going to go in the top 3, and you don't make light of what Jalen Carter had going on that offseason. People lost their lives in a car accident, in a racing incident that he was involved in. Certainly don't make light of that. He showed up to his pro day out of shape. That was another red flag people were considering. But then all that
was a big
said,
red flag.
It was a big red flag. He was going through a lot of stuff, but we went through this and we don't have to relitigate it.
I was outwardly saying, I was vociferously saying, they shouldn't draft him. I was wrong.
Right. And my stance was, I can remember being pretty immature 20-year-old, and I can empathize with
and 39-year-old
and a 39-year-old. We're all growing up at a different rate, and Jalen Carter, has an opportunity to mature. Nobody's going to be perfect. He made mistakes. Again, not selling light what he did, but once he fell to 10, I think you're going to just take fate at face value and take.
Well,
Jalen
he didn't
Carter.
fall to 10. He went 9th because the Bears gave him that.
Oh,
pick.
that's what I mean. I apologize.
Yeah, I know.
Fourth rounder.
That's the part where we can't forget. It's like
we got Torrey Taylor though for that fourth rounder, or Keenan Allen, or somebody of that ilk. I forget exactly how we used it.
It's Keenan
I
probably.
actually think I got my punting and winning shirt.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have that shirt if the Bears had.
You wouldn't.
That,
You wouldn't. Shout out to the punter. I had a couple other takeaways just from the Eagles game, just watching them be successful. One, this is for you, Justin Fields fans. Jalen Hurts didn't do anything yesterday. He was sacked a ton. He threw for 120 yards. He handed the ball off. They're one win away from going to the Super Bowl, winning without a great quarterback because they have a great defense. The people that were making the argument at the time, Herb Howard, most on this show, you can build around him. He's not going to be great, but you can win. The Eagles are doing it. They ain't winning because of their quarterback. They're winning because they could identify guys like Zach Bond, who you should be talking about, Mr. Wisconsin, who they got on a 1-year deal for $3.5 million. The Saints barely played him for 4 years. Right. Then he flashed at the end of last year, and now all of a sudden he's all over the field making a zillion plays. I haven't seen Tremaine Edmonds make as many plays as Bond made in 2 years that we saw yesterday. That guy was nails.
Well, and what? Yeah, but who put him in the right spot? A guy named Vic Fangio. Like, it was another guy. Like, they tried to get him a couple years ago. They got in trouble for tampering. So he's got to go to Miami for a year. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to do everything we can to get you back in. So they're trying to get the best coaches, the best players. They're taking swings.
I'm glad you brought up Vic Fangio, too, because in my rant earlier of things we know about Mike McCarthy versus things we don't know about Ben Johnson, that's another one. We know Mike McCarthy will build a good coaching staff. Yeah. We don't know what kind of coaching staff Ben Johnson will bring. Like,
I'm worried about it.
Just to bring it full circle. Like, again, that's another thing. Maybe I'm not going to say he can't build a good coaching staff. I'm not saying he can't be a good head coach. I'm not saying he can't develop a quarterback. But these are things we don't know until we find them out once we're already past the decision.
Well, let me bring it full circle and just tell you what Bears fans would be saying today if we weren't the Bears and we were the Commanders. And we were 1 win away from going to the Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback who's lighting up the NFL, rushing for nearly 1,000 yards, throwing for same amount as Caleb threw for, about 3,500. But we would be talking about, can this guy pass Patrick Mahomes eventually? Because he's playing as a rookie, and he's got him within a win of the Super Bowl. That's what we'd be talking about if Jaden Daniels was a Bear right now. The guy, I'm not saying that Caleb can't catch up to him, but right now, this dude is having the season of all seasons for a rookie QB. And there were some people out there last year that were saying it. Now, right or wrong, most people were saying draft Caleb. But Dan Orlovsky, do we have that audio, Steven? I just was going back through time, and of course it's making its way around. This was last year, February, a couple of weeks from now, and this was Orlovsky, who's been on the show. Maybe we'll try to get him again at the old Super Bowl. Dan Orlovsky on what he saw last year.
I don't get the sense you think it's that simple.
I have not thought that Caleb Williams was a lock at number 1 because I thought Drake May would be the guy. I was wrong in that. Jaden Daniels should be the guy. If I were the Chicago Bears right now, I would take Jaden Daniels out of LSU. That is not a knock on Caleb Williams. That is a plus in Jaden Daniels. I think, number 1, when you watch all these guys play, the best thrower, the best guy against man coverage, ball placement-wise, is Jaden Daniels. Number 2, when we're talking about explosive play, like guys who have to throw the ball downfield, what does it look like? Jaden Daniels throws the ball best downfield. And then number 3, who's got the best pocket piece? When I say piece, it's P-E-A-C-E. All these guys are athletic. It's no longer like this plus. Every one of these guys has that attribute. The patience and the peace within the pocket, he's the best at. Candidly, I think when it comes to what guy had the best game, none of these guys' games compared to Jaden Daniels against Florida. If you just watch that player versus the University of Florida, you would go, that's the best player in college football, and he's going to be the guy that transfers the best into the NFL. Caleb Williams is fantastic. I think Jaden Daniels is better.
You know, I just looked back at this. There was a night you and Booger were in the studio, and you were doing a game with Jaden Daniels, and you're doing halftime, and I texted you guys, the two of you, at halftime, and I said, Jaden Daniels as good as I think he is, and you wrote back, Caleb is tremendous, but not a lock to be one. This is
sometime in October.
October.
Yeah.
Well, he was a lock to be one, but it is. I just think it is interesting to hear what he was saying at the time. And that's not to gaslight anything. It's just looking at what this guy's doing. You got to give him his props.
No, he nailed it as far as his evaluation of him. There's no question.
Yeah, the deep ball stuff especially.
Yeah,
No question.
Jaden Daniels played amazing, to beat the Lions here. Has played a great rookie year. There's no question. We went at it last week about the importance of coaching, the importance of a guy like Cliff Kingsbury really putting this offense in a good spot, and that is getting the most out of Jaden Daniels and building the offense around his skill set. I think there's a lot of throws that they call from a play calling standpoint and from an execution standpoint that really set up on a silver platter for Jaden Daniels to be successful. And then he'll have the one or two plays where he goes dime ball down the field. He's shown that throughout the season. What he does outside of the pocket, running the football, he's tremendous. He's like Lamar Jackson. He is a young Lamar Jackson. Could end up becoming better than Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, who has won 2 MVPs in this league. So there's nothing I'm going to say as far as defending Caleb Williams not meeting that same expectation this year that's going to take away from what Jaden Daniels has done.
And I would just wrap it up with, like, when they were going to play the Commanders this year, when the Bears were going into that game, and I was, in the locker room late one day, and it was literally Cole and Caleb, and they were asking me, is Jaden going to play? And I'm like, and at that time, like, I think I just flipped today that he is. And Caleb was like, I hope he does. And so I'm hoping that, not that he needs any motivation. I'm sure Caleb's plenty motivated to have his second year be, that much better than what this was in the whole thing. But I hope that he's watching this also, and like whatever extra fire, I'm going to pass this guy. Yeah. You all think he's great. I'm going to show you how this ends.
I just think that part of the reason why I just get so uneasy about these conversations is that we're in such a rush to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come at you a little bit for this. You did the same thing last year with Stroud.
I did.
You did the same exact thing. And so where this matters is
you're an idiot.
No, because CJ Stroud's still good. The point is, I think like these quarterbacks that come on strong as rookies, you find out early that they're going to be good, and that's a good thing. I think we know Jaden Daniels is going to be good, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we do not know what this whole thing is going to look like 4 years from now, because he might take a step back like CJ Stroud did, who, by the way, still won a playoff game. He's not bad. But I think we can slow down the CJ Stroud's going to the Hall of Fame conversation, at least after year 2.
Well, I think what's more important to that is that, look, Caleb threw for 3,500 yards. He had 20 touchdowns. He had 6 interceptions. Yes, he took way too many sacks. Yes, there's a lot of talk about his work ethic that he's got to hone in on, which he absolutely can, and I would bet on him to do. So it is a long game. So they didn't draft Mitch Trubisky 2, who couldn't see half the field. That's not what they did. But it is on the table, though, that they passed on 2 elite quarterbacks in back-to-back drafts, and that won't look good for Ryan Pace on the line.
But I guess the point I'm getting,
I'm not saying Caleb can't be great at him. I obviously think he can.
If I told you 3 years from now Drake May ended up being the best of them, would you be shocked?
No.
That's my point.
I got it.
That's my point. It's not even about Caleb. It's just
we got to do the pod now. We got to talk about what's happening now. Well, this dude's 1 win away from the Super Bowl.
Well, what's happening now, in my opinion, is if you we said this last week, you weren't on the show, but if the roles were reversed and you put Caleb Williams on the Commanders and Jaden Daniels on the Bears this year and kept everything the same, I think Caleb Williams would be having a tremendous year with the Commanders, and he'd be set up for success, whereas Jaden Daniels might not have made it out of 6 games with the Bears, with the way they were calling plays, with the amount of responsibility they were having Caleb do at the line of scrimmage, with the offensive line failures, and then how many injuries the offensive line sustained. It was a mess. And so when you talk about the baseline stats being very similar, That is true and works to the favor of showing, hey, Caleb Williams still has got a lot of potential that is still untapped. There's the advanced metrics of Caleb Williams' downfield accuracy. There's a lot of things that Caleb Williams still needs to improve. There's no question about it. But for me, the things that you look at from an eye test standpoint, he looks calmer, Jaden Daniels. He looks more confident. He looks more comfortable. And so for me, how do you get Caleb Williams to get those three things? Well, one is experience. Jaden Daniels started in 55 games in college. Caleb Williams started in 31. Comfortability. Jaden Daniels' pocket is much more cleaner. Their offense executes at a much higher level. The Bears have to find that for Caleb Williams. And then confidence. When you see Jaden Daniels drop one in a bucket down the field where his receiver's eyes are being covered and it's a dime ball, Caleb Williams has just as much of that ability as what Jaden Daniels does, but the confidence gets shaken when you're running for your life and you're sacked 70 times. So, yes, Jaden Daniels, great rookie year. I think Caleb Williams has the opportunity to do everything that Jaden has done this year as a Bear.
All right. Well said. Good luck to your Irish tonight, by the way, and good luck to Ohio State fans. And good luck to everybody else out there who's rooting for both of them to lose. You got a preferred victor tonight, Hoge?
I do, because it's the last game in our season-long pigskin pool I'm in, which for only the second time I'm in the money right now, and I've had a bad weekend. Thankfully, the Chiefs pulled that one out. So I really need the Irish to cover tonight.
Yeah, how we doing on our playoff standings?
So if the Irish don't cover tonight, I'm going to be really mad at Greg and Sean because he's wearing a Notre Dame
Irish
sweatshirt.
Are going to lose by 20 points.
This is not. I do not think they win. I think Ohio State wins by 14.
Ohio State's going to beat the Irish by 20 points tonight.
Sean
they have
Anderson.
16 5-star players, and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish have one.
Riley Leonard's offense is just battering ram. I don't think that he can sustain that for
I agree.
What?
I agree.
60 minutes.
Not covering.
Okay.
Sean Anderson supporting the show in many ways today.
Yeah,
Appreciate
he
you,
was
brother.
doing a little fill-in for producing as well.
And to your how is our playoff picks looking? Well, this weekend, the reason why Greg is asking is because Greg went 3-0-1.
Oh, yeah. Well, last week you wanted to talk about it so much because you were in the lead.
That's right.
So now you're going to talk about it.
Well, I am still in the lead.
Oh, okay.
So you know.
You got lucky.
You guys are tied.
We're tied, and so by Greg's process of thought, I'm putting myself in the lead because I know that I'm better than Greg, so a tie goes to me. We're both 6-3-1 2 weeks in. Hoge is in third place, 5-4-1.
If we're both 6-3-1.
I'm in the lead. And it's Steven.
Well, by your logic in our pre-show meeting,
Yes.
Well,
did you pick
people
the
would
Rams or
expect
Eagles?
him to
You
win
picked the
over
Eagles.
you, so he should get the tiebreaker. That was your logic with how a push should work.
No. We have to go.
I'm in the lead because I am the overall leader, and so I'm leading here too.
My point to all you in the chat was the Eagles-Rams line was 6. I picked the Eagles. Steven's an idiot and picked the Rams.
They had the ball with a chance to
I
win.
don't want to hear it.
It's a push.
And so it's a push in Vegas terms, but I said for our standing sake, tiebreakers of who actually picked the winning team should be taken into account. Carm, because sometimes he's smart, agreed. Hoge did not because he's a jerk. And you, Steven, are picking the Rams, so you deserve the L. That's it. I rest my case. I rest my case.
I hope Notre Dame loses by 40. There it is.
We're going to go inside. We're going to go outside.
All right, Cub show is coming up. They're going to crush.
We're going to go on the run. We're going to keep them on the run.
All right, stop talking. 2:30. I love you. 2:30 Cubs. First up, Super Chats on our way out here.
We're not going to stop till we get across that goal line.
James Robin at $5. Can one of you explain why Ben is a better choice than Joe Brady? Joe's run pass balance approach seems better than Ben's glitz play approach. Hoge, you went deep into Joe. You want to push back on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's just the track records aren't even remotely the same. Ben's had nothing but success. Joe Brady has a lot more question marks, including what happened in Carolina. So we got to get going here, but go check out. We had a whole Joe Brady segment last week that's up on the YouTube page. You can go back and you don't even have to watch the whole show. You should be able to find it.
$20 from Big Cram. Carm, when you do the show from home, please stop using the wired Apple headphones. We can hear you have a healthy breathing rate. Also, I don't know who Eric is, but someone is taking credit for my parody account. That man is a phony.
Any response?
I have no idea what's happening. No,
I'll work on my headphone situation, but that doesn't make any sense because I have the mic on, so why is it picking
He's
up?
He's probably hearing your tapping that we were talking
Carm,
he has a lot of things going on when we do remote shows.
Okay, we're not talking about
No.
And the
How
breathing,
it is
and then the
amazing how
looking
somehow
around.
we still can't. Like, we literally bought you one of the nicest mics out there, and you still log on to shows, and it doesn't, and we can't figure it out.
Listen, you bought me the mic. I'm
Carm,
just using it.
The next time you're on an airplane, just steal one of the headsets they give you.
Okay.
It's not even stealing.
We're going to Super Bowl. I'll steal it. I'll steal those headsets.
Just use headphones that don't have a microphone.
Headphones without a microphone. Got it. We don't have to wait till I go on our flight to New Orleans. I'll do that today because I'm here to make this show as best as I can make it. And if it's my headphones that's taking us down, then I got to look in the mirror. Concerned citizen, $5. Does
lead a
Poles
horse
get an
to
extension
water.
either way or only with the hiring of Johnson? I have no idea. Some people think that the extension's already done. It's waiting to be announced with the head coach.
Yes.
Some people
I
think
think
he's not
no
getting
matter what, if Ryan Poles is still the GM, he's getting extended when they hire a head coach.
Matt Morovich, $5. Wiki says Ben Johnson is the Bears head coach already under his wiki. Did we miss something? Well, wiki woo.
Anybody can change Wikipedia.
Braggs wrote it. Ian O'Hare, $5. The return on investment on getting Ben and making us a good team is tenfold what it would cost for his salary. How many more Lions jerseys have been sold this year?
Well, they were all walking out halfway through the fourth, gutless losers.
Being cheap on coaches is one of the dumbest things ever. By the way, shout out to Jeff Torborg, who
He's dead.
Oh, here
well, he passed away, yes. But he was the first White Sox manager. I remember the reason why I'm bringing that up right now is because according to Wiki, he
That's how you got there.
Jerry was only paying him $250,000 a year. So the Mets were like, "Hey, would you like a raise?" And then he went to New York. So AL Manager of the Year with the White Sox couldn't keep him because they were so cheap.
I thought we had to go. Why am I hearing a Mets story right now?
That's on the heels of losing Tony, by the way.
Trying to get home.
Because Greg, A, it's in the rundown. B, it has to do with this because the whole moral of that story is don't be cheap with coaches.
Since when do we follow the rundown?
$5 from Brick. Greg, think about this logically. Barb 10,000 times over the last 35 years.
That's my buddy Shane, and I will kick you square in the. You know what? Let's just move on. Brick,
$50
kiss
from
my ass.
Okay, you and Brick can talk in your next spaces. Brick, $50 from Craig Leach. We love you, Craig. It's 2025. Let's resolve to stop saying the tea leaves in every episode. Carm, Braggs, Rank. All
I
right,
really don't
Leach.
say tea leaves that much. I say a lot of other things all the time.
You say tea leaves a lot.
Do I?
Yes.
Can I swear right now? We're past the hour mark. Can I swear?
You cannot. Anthony Capriati. Sounds like a great tennis player. $5. I'm hoping that part of the reason the Bears are doing so many interviews is Warren building league connections that they lack. Sure, that's what's going on. How's that? I thought that Hoge. Kevin's learning on the job, and so is Ryan. Everyone's getting better. And Super Bowl 2025. Court J, $20. I think the reason Bears fans don't want McCarthy is because many of them don't know/understand the roadblock. Jerry is in Dallas and thus blame the Cowboys' failure to get to the big show on McCarthy.
I'm a little confused by that, but
yeah, I think there's actually McCarthy momentum, Court J. I feel McCarthy momentum in Bears land. I mean, if we talked about it a month ago,
He's
McCarthy.
saying that Jerry is the bigger problem than Dallas. Not McCarthy, because Jerry's
I'm just saying
doing everything there.
I mean, I did see some comments on our corner of the world that don't want McCarthy, but there's a lot of people that do. JL, $2. It was more of a tell on Flus leadership than Carter. That's fair, and I'm not willing to bring Jalen Carter because of that guy.
I agree.
Which is not just Flus, by the way. That's the entire organization. Chris Choi, $5. Fair to question Caleb's work ethic, question mark, or is it because he's a rookie? Why didn't Proles bring in a vet QB to help Caleb like Mariota is doing for Jaden? because he had the greatest backup quarterback in history of backup quarterbacks in Tyson Bagent. That's the reason, but they should add a vet in there too at the third spot. I agree. Shouldn't have been Austin Reed. And
I think when Caleb cites throughout the season that he's got to learn to have the process of the Monday through Saturday on how to prepare for a game, that it's fair to talk about how he needs to get better at that going into next year. Caleb has said it himself.
Save the best for last. Crystal, $5, just sending some love on this Monday. Missed you, Hoge. Love you guys. Bear down. Missed you. Missed you, Hoge.
Thank you, Crystal.
Gone for a couple days, Crystal. Calm down.
I missed you too, Adam. I'm really happy you're here.
Did you see your Northwestern Wildcats lose in overtime, Crystal?
The worst ref game ever. Every single one of those refs should be sent to Botswana.
Oilers won, though.
That was embarrassing. Embarrassing. And
then you had Caleb, speaking of Big Ten basketball, then you had Caleb at the Wisconsin game with a cast on his hand.
Just got to
send us all into a frenzy.
He's good. Hey,
people are so worried about that, and they should have just been noticing the score.
The
domination that was happening.
We're out of here. Cubs are next. Happy MLK Day, the greatest guy in the history of this country. And I think, pause a moment for somebody who passed away at 39, put his life on the line to make the world a better place. That's why he has a holiday, and he deserves a whole lot more than that. And it was fun to be with you guys today.
Let's go Irish. You've got no chance to win tonight, but let's go. In the national championship.
Trying to reverse jinx it.
It's not a reverse jinx. They're not going to win. But
I think Notre Dame's going to win.
They got the Buckeyes by 40. That defense. But we'll see you tomorrow.
Please end the show.
Ben Johnson might be hired tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Let's go Irish.
We all silly like the mayor.